everyone, this is the movie Maniac, and today we are talking about the latest film in the MCU, Spider-Man Far From Home. The movie stars Tom Holland as Peter Parker and everybody's favorite web-slinger Spider-Man, and he goes overseas with a group of his high school buddies, and he just wants to hang out with them, tell the girl he likes that he really is into her, but there's a change of plans as Nick Fury and the gang catch up to Spidey, tell him that there's a new threat in town, and that we're going to need his help. So this is the first film to take place after Endgame. And this movie does a pretty good job at exploring how the world has been affected by the blip, as they're calling it, where everyone was dusted away. Tom Holland is absolutely terrific. He has truly become Peter Parker and Spider-Man, in the same way that Robert Downey Jr. became Tony Stark, and in the same way that Tobey Maguire became Spider-Man in the Sam Raimi trilogy. I thought the humor for the first hour was pretty effective, and after that, it kind of wore off on me. Jake Gyllenhaal gives a great performance in this, and even though he does overact a little bit, I'm willing to give him a pass just because he's putting everything into this character, and that's such a delight. It's so fun to watch. There are some really cute moments between Peter Parker and MJ, their connection with each other, their misunderstandings, the brewing romance, the feelings between them, the mishaps that take place with Peter Parker trying to be near MJ and then him getting separated. Like, all of that was done very well. I think one of the biggest issues with Far From Home is that it's a collection of separate scenes that are great on their own but struggle to connect. And what I mean by that is that on paper, some of these isolated sequences, if you were pitching them privately to a group of studio executives and writers, it would sound amazing. But when it was time to string them together, I think it got a little messy. This movie felt very light, almost too light. And I understand Spider-Man doesn't have to be dark and brooding. Believe me, I put Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in my top 10 films of 2018. And I absolutely adore the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and I'm in love with this DVD box set. I think it's so damn cool. I also felt that visually, this looked like a kid's movie. If you had told me that the director was from a bunch of children's films and then he went to do this, I'd believe it 100%. There are a couple of great scenes in the final act of the movie, which I won't reveal because they're spoilers, but they do kind of mess with Peter Parker on a psychological level, and I thought that was fantastic. As a matter of fact, I think there should have been more of that in this movie, but the issue is when there's so little of that and your movie feels so light, it just feels like a very soft follow-up from Endgame. I did something during this movie that's always a bad sign. I checked my watch in the final act of the film. Most of this picture feels like filler material, just to get us to another MCU entry or another Spidey film. And I think I just need more than that. It felt like somebody poured me a flat soda. There's so much discussion of Tony Stark, Stark Industries, in the Avengers in this movie that you begin to actually realize how much better those films are compared to this. They're damned if they do and damned if they don't. If you do talk about the Avengers and Stark as much as they do in this, you just remember how great those movies were and how it pales into comparison to what you're watching. If you don't discuss it, then it feels like you're trying too hard to hide it and be your own movie, but you are following up the events of Endgame. You have to discuss it, and the connection Peter Parker has to Tony Stark can't be avoided. Another disappointing aspect of Far From Home was that they used a character named Mysterio. And listen, I love the MCU. I really enjoy the DCEU. I love them as films. I'm not a huge comic guy, but I do know a little bit about Mysterio, and if you just know a tiny bit about this character, whatever twists that might be involved with Mysterio, you can already see coming, and it removes a lot of the tension that builds up to that. So a lot of what you're watching, you're like, yeah, okay, but I already know this one thing. And again, I'm not a huge comic book fan. I have tons of respect for the source material, but you guys already know I'm a film person. I'm a movie fanatic. I'm a movie maniac. That's what I'm into. But I know a little bit about these characters, and when you pick someone like that, it already sets it up for, you already know the twist. It's just unfortunate because even if you know a little bit about Mysterio, when you go see this movie, you, without giving away any spoilers, already kind of know some of the things that might be coming, and it just removes a lot of the investment and the believability and things of that nature. And I just wish maybe they had either gone with somebody else or had gone about it differently. Far From Home is far from one of my favorite movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. If you asked me, do I recommend it? I would say on the basis of two things. One, it's the follow-up to Endgame, and there are some major shifts in this universe that are happening, especially in the post-credit scenes, that you do want to be in the loop on. Two, there are some very fantastic-looking visuals. One in particular that's near the tail end of the film, and I saw it in IMAX, and it does look pretty beautiful, but aside from that, I might tell you to skip it. I say this as a Spider-Man fan. I have no interest in giving this a bad rating or telling you not to watch it. I'm just here to tell you the truth and how I see it. I know there's a lot of people that love this movie, and I think that's awesome. Like, I actually wish I were on board with you. Like, when you tell me you liked this movie, I don't go, pfft. I think, man, why can't that be me? It's not a terrible film, and I don't even know if it's necessarily a bad movie. It's just mediocre, and we've come to expect so much more from Marvel at this point, and that, to me, is the real blow. I think it's a very light movie. I think it's a very soft Marvel film, and I just don't think it follows up Endgame all that well. And there are parts of this movie that do work, and like I said earlier, there are some individual scenes that are pretty spectacular, but I'm judging it on the totality. I'm judging it all together, and it just doesn't really come together for me. And in the end, I have to stick with my 6 out of 10. So what did you all think of Far From Home? Does anybody agree with me on this? Because I feel like my girlfriend and I are one of the only people I've seen that have said that this wasn't that great. I read a couple of comments on Rotten Tomatoes Facebook page, I think it was, but everything I've been hearing so far, and I try to stay far away from reviews before I do my own, so I just catch little glimpses of things, but it all seems to be an astounding thumbs up. And again, I think that's great if you liked it. I'm not like saying that you're wrong and I'm right. I don't play that game, and I don't plan on ever playing that game. But I just want to hear what everybody else thought about it. Did you agree with me? Did you think it for different reasons that I'm correct, or that some of the things I said I didn't like, you actually liked? So leave that comment below, and as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you can stay inside the mind of a movie maniac.